So, you want to move to a farm and have 7 children? Well, I guess you can have fun with that. Hey guys, I'm TutsByKai. Today we're back once again. Whatever the intro is nowadays, man. I'm getting kind of old, man. You know what I mean? I'm at the ripe age of 74. It's not looking good for me. Hey guys, I'm back. Today we're doing a huge banger today. Today we're doing the ultimate special beginner's guide on everything. I keep seeing comments where people are asking how to do some super basic things, and I feel like instead of making like 1-minute videos, let's do like a big banger of a video and kind of go over a lot of the stuff that you guys have been asking about recently. So when you load up Blender as a literal first-time Blender user, you're going to see this, right? You can see the default cube, you can see the camera, you can see the light, and that's basically all you're going to see. Now, at the bottom is the timeline. This is where you're obviously going to have your keyframes and the ability to scrub back and forth and, you know, play your scene. But right now we don't have anything animating, of course, so it doesn't really play anything. Of course, this is the, you know, back, rewind, play buttons. This is the, you know, auto keyframing button. So if I click this button right here and I go to, like, if I go to a certain frame, like frame 10, and click on our cube, hit G. G is the move button, so we're just gonna hit G to move it. We can put that there and then go to another frame randomly, hit G again to move it, and then left click, and then obviously it moved. Now when we play this, you can see that now it moves to that different location, which is super cool. On the right hand side, we have a bunch of panels. This looks super, you know, daunting, I suppose, if you don't know what's going on. But up at the top, the right hand, right up here in the right hand corner, we have this little box that says camera, cube, and light. This is, of course, all of the items in our scene. So if I was to go ahead and hit Shift A with my cursor inside of the 3D viewport, which is this giant space that we have to work with here, I can go ahead and add a bunch of different things. So if I hit Shift A, I can add a bunch of stuff. Let's go ahead and add in a mesh monkey. Let's add in a monkey. Okay, so if I want to pan around my scene and get a better look at the monkey, I'll just click and hold the middle mouse button. So like the little scroll wheel, you know, this little guy, if you're scrolling. But if you click it and then move your mouse, you know, you can kind of zoom around like that, whoosh, like that. Pretty cool. Let's zoom on into the monkey head. And you can see up in the top right, now we have something that says Suzanne. Now, Suzanne's not the name of your mother-in-law. It's actually the name of this monkey head. So as you can see, we can go ahead and just double click this and then change this to a different name. But now this isn't Suzanne anymore. Now this is Hank. So now that's how we go ahead and rename objects. Now, of course, we can grab our cube and rename our cube 2. We can rename this to Liam. So we have Hank and Liam now. In our camera, of course, we're going to have Sierra. And then our light, of course, we're going to name him nothing other than the most amazing name, Bob. So now we have Bob, Hank, Liam, and Sierra. These are our, of course, lamp, monkey, cube, and camera. So now we can select all these bad boys and hit G to move them around, all that good stuff. But before we do that, another good way to move things around, instead of selecting something and hitting G, you can do that down here on the in the panel beneath the all the items that we just traded and renamed. You can do that down here. So if you click an item and then go to, or which is that? Oh no, here we are. If you go to the object tab right here, this little orange square, you can just move it side to side, you know, with individual values. So if I want to move it 5 meters to the right, we'll just put 5. If we want to move it to the left, obviously just put a negative sign in front of that 5. Boom. And there's a bunch of stuff here. There's a bunch of stuff. There's rotation, of course. There's, you know, there's scale. You can scale it and whatnot. A bunch of different stuff. Also, there's like a bunch of tabs here, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, in the very, very beginnings of Blender, you're probably not going to move through all of these bad boys, so we'll do these very, very, very simply. So the one you're probably going to look through the most likely is maybe viewport display. So if we let's undo some of the rotation we just did. If we look at viewport display here, you can go ahead and see that we can add and turn on a bunch of different things here. So we can turn on the name, so you can see the name there, Hank. You can see the axes, which you're probably not going to put on. You see the wireframe, which is sometimes super, super helpful. Edges doesn't really do too much because we don't have we don't really have super defined edges. And we have in front as well. So in front is if I put this monkey behind this cube, if in front's enabled, you can see it always shows in front of the cube, even though it's behind it, which is super trippy, but that's, you know, you might need that sometimes for something in particular. To be honest with you, all these tabs are very, very, very niche, and you're probably not going to use them too often. So kind of just blowing past a lot of these things because again, there's so many settings here in Blender, it can get super overwhelming, and I don't want this video to be overwhelming. I want it to be more like, oh, okay, well, this is where this is where that is. So starting up at the top here, we have a few things. We have a few things here. So we have the, actually technically we have the tool tab, but let's skip that one because we don't really care about that one. We have the render tab, which is one of the most like granular tabs you'll use while you're, making your way through learning Blender. We have the render engine, which is Eevee. We can change it to cycles. Cycles and Eevee and Workbench, these are just different types of like the engines that Blender uses. So if I was to go ahead and go to render viewport tab up here at the top, hit that little button, you can see that it renders it in a different way. So this is right now we're in Eevee and things look nice because Eevee is actually a real-time renderer. So this is basically exactly what it looks like when you render your scene, which is really cool. We didn't have this back in the day. Only thing we had back in the day was cycles. In cycles, it obviously needed to load and kind of render a little bit and, smooth it out as the camera stays still. But you can see when moving around, it gets really, really grainy and pixelated and all that stuff. And that's because, again, we're on cycles. So there's some things that cycles does that Eevee doesn't do. And there's some things that Eevee does that cycles doesn't do. So for the most part, you're probably going to want to keep things on Eevee, unless you realize you come across a day where you're like, oh, well, I need cycles for this. And that day will come when you figure out what you're doing and the different materials and different things you'll need to be doing in the future. But for now, the next thing we can look at is the samples here. The samples is just how clear your image is going to be once you render it. So right now the default's on 64, which is pretty much fine for most things unless you're doing something crazy like a liquid simulation or some kind of crazy lighting setup or something. Underneath that, we have shadows. Obviously, shadows is shadows. And when you turn it on and off, the shadows disappear, obviously. The shadows are cast, obviously, just from the lamps, not from the world view, because the world view has its own lighting. So the shadows is just really just the lights. As you can see, there's still like some darkness on the bottom half of this. So yeah, that's that. Now, advanced, that just goes with the render lighting stuff. Clamps, you're not really gonna use this too much. This is kind of just for the distance of lights and lighting and stuff like that. It's very, very, again, we're not gonna use that. Ray tracing is actually very, very good. So if you take a look here in the shadows, it basically makes things look a little bit more shiny. So it kind of has like this nice little ray tracing effect, which is really, really good. It really kind of sells things. But as you can see, we have this like graininess here, so that's when the sampling would come into play. So we're gonna change this from 64 to maybe like 128, and it gets a little clearer there. And of course, you use something crazy like 1024, something wild, then excuse me, and it will, when it's rendering, it will go ahead and actually change the samples. But here in the viewport, you see it's only set to 16, so we can change this to 1024 and see what that bad boy looks like. Obviously it's going super slow and calculating that in, but it gets a lot smoother. As you can see, it's still loading and still smoothing all that out. It's just hard to see like from this far away, but it is making it all much smoother, because if we put the sample to 2, you can see that looks like dookie. Yep, that looks like butt cheek. So that's not what we want. So if you want to keep the render at a low distance, I'd probably just leave it on 16 for the most part and just turn the samples of your actual render up. Yeah, after that we have volumes, we have curves. You probably use motion blur. Motion blur is exactly what you think it is. It's literally just motion blur, so you just toggle that on and off. And when something's moving, like this cube you see over here on the right hand side, look at that cube move. It has motion blur. Obviously now you see when it's moving, but then when we turn it off, it does not have motion blur any longer. It will also render like that, of course. It's not just for the viewport, it is also for your render. It will come across like that, which is very, very cool. You can turn the shutter up and down. The shutter, the lower that it is, as you can see, if you hover most things in Blender, it'll tell you what it does. If you lower the shutter, it says this is the time taken in between frames, in between the shutter opening and closing. So basically, it works the same way that regular cameras do. So if you lower the shutter, obviously the motion blur will be very, very small, to the point where you barely even see it. If you raise it, it'll take more time between the shutters, and then it will give you more motion blur like that. Steps obviously is the quality of the motion blur, so let's put that on like maybe 16, and then it'll get a lot more nicer, a lot more smoother, because it'll add more steps or more cubes between each of the smears, which means that there's more things to smear, so it looks a lot smoother, obviously. what else we have here? We have film. Film is great because you can check transparent on and off. So if you're rendering something, you need the background to be transparent because you're putting it over a video or over an image or over something else. Then you need to check transparent. This is one of the best settings in the entire thing right here under film. So if you need something to be transparent, boom, click that bad boy, and then it'll be transparent when you render it, and you can put it wherever you want, which is really cool. Performance, the grease pencil is a whole thing. The grease pencil is actually a tool where you can, let me up at the top here, let's hit this little plus button, and we'll go to 2D animation, and we'll go 2D animation here. So the grease pencil is actually a way where you can draw on a canvas, which is really, really cool. Let's go 2D full cam. So that's this. Okay, so if we add in, just super quickly, just so I can explain what the grease pencil is in case you don't know. Grease pencil, let's go Shift A, we'll search for a grease pencil, and we'll just add in a blank one. What it basically is if I open this up here, and select my grease pencil back, wait, let's add another one. There we go. I lost it. There we go. We add a little stroke in, you go to draw mode. You can see that we have the ability to now draw on our canvas. We can just delete all this. We can just delete all this by going ahead and going to the erase tool, and then just selecting an erase tool and then erasing all that. And go back to draw. You can see it's very, very cool because you can actually create full 2D animations here. You can just create a little line there, go to the next frame, and then erase all that. And then draw another frame like this, right? Very, very cool stuff. And then now it'll toggle between those two scenes, those two things right there. And you can actually animate completely in Blender. And the reason this is great, man, I can't speak English, huh? You'd think I could because it's my first language. It's the only language I know. I don't even know it that well. But the great thing about this is that it's vector. It's actually vector graphics. So when you zoom in, it never gets blurry because the lines are completely sharp still. Unlike other programs where you'll be drawing in raster, which means when you zoom in, the lines will get blurry. The more you zoom into this, they will never get blurry. So that means that you can literally take your animations here, which is cool. You can change this from the draw mode back to the object mode. And just grab all of the things you just drew, move it around, scale it up however you want. Hit S to scale, obviously. Hit S on your keyboard. You can do whatever you want with it, which is really cool. And it also exists in a 3D space. So with the rest of your objects, it lines up with your camera so that it's like in line with the camera, obviously, but it is in a 3D space. So if you want to draw something behind what you just drew, you can also do that. We'll talk about the grease pencil a little bit later as well, but just to wet you guys' feet with that, because we had this little thing down here that says grease pencil. Now this is just like, you don't have to worry about any of these. This will all probably be fine. You won't have to mess with that most likely. Freestyle is basically a super easy way. I'm not gonna set it up right now, but freestyle is basically a super easy way to add outlines to your image. You can change from absolute to relative and all that stuff. It doesn't load in render viewport shading right now, where we're looking at our monkey, because we don't have it all set up. But just know that if you do need like outlines on everything, so you're doing like a cell shaded look, or you're doing something where you want everything in your scene to have outlines, you would toggle the freestyle on. You do a couple of different settings in the material tab and whatever else to create that look. Again, everything that I'm doing in this video, if there's a specific thing that you guys are like, I want to know how to do that specifically, definitely let me know down in the comments, and I will do a specific video on that alone. Like I said, I want to get through everything today, so we can't possibly stop on everything. This video will be 3 days long. Let's go ahead and go to the second tab here, which is the output tab. Output tab is another huge tab you'll use all the time. This is obviously where you can change your resolution. You can change the aspect ratio of your scene, which you probably should never really touch. You should probably ever just change the pixels for your resolution for the X and Y. So this is obviously 1920 1080, 1280 720, you know, 2560 1440, all that kind of stuff. This percent here, this changes the resolution scale. So basically, if you don't want to change your actual resolution, you can change this down to like 50%, and then it'll render 50% of 1920 by 1080. So if I render this initially, right, go ahead and hit render there. What it'll do is, it's rendering on a different monitor. I got 3 monitors. It's rendering on the wrong monitor. Hold on, just give me 1 second here. Just pull over. There you go. So it renders this. Obviously, there's the freestyle. As you can see, the lines are there. It's not, you know, you can't, like I said, we can't see them in the rendered the 3D view space, but when it's rendering, the lines are there. But like I said, they look bad because we didn't do anything to them. They're just literally lines. They're not even, motion blurring with our cube. But aside from that, if we were to put this to 50%, when I render it again, up here to the render tab, hit render image. If I do it rendered again, obviously the image is, let me show you, just one second, one moment here. The image is way smaller, as you can see. So that's just a nice way of scaling your image down without having to change the resolution itself. Okay, so after that, let's put that back up. After that, we have the frame rate, which is a huge, obvious thing. So I'll put that on 60 most of the time because I want 60 frames. Obviously, things are a lot smoother when you put them on 60 frames per second. Whoa, look at that. Whoa, smooth. As opposed to when it was just on 29. Let's put it on 24. As you can see, it's way choppier there. And then put it on 6. Obviously, that is, a type of Lego stop motion animation. I think Lego did 12 or 15 frames for all the Lego films, but yeah, so put that back on 60 actually. The frame range, this is also pretty big. This value here with the 1 and 20 and 250 is the same down here on the timeline right here. It says 1 and 250. So basically, the animation goes for the entire playhead here. So the little blue thing that's moving, it goes for that entire thing, then it loops. So that's the end of your animation. Which is 250 frames. So if you want this animation to be shorter, just put it on 50 or something like that, and the animation is way smaller, and then it loops way quicker. Now another way you can do this is you go, okay, well, hey Kai, how do I fix this? I want to see how long my animation is, not how many frames it is. Bet I got you, Billy. Go to View right here. And then we can go to use time code. Use time code, and then it shows you the seconds here. So it's nice. So this entire animation is not even a second because 1 second is right there. 1 second's right there. So that's pretty cool. Now, what I usually do just to make things look a little more normal, and just because I'm that way, I always change my start frame to 0, which is as low as it can go. Don't know why Blender starts it on 1. It kind of frustrates me, and it always really has. I understand that, it's, the first frame, but when it goes to 0, why not put it on 0? You know what I mean? Like that's the start. Like, look at this. This is the first frame here. It starts here on the 0. I don't know why they have it start there off of the thing. It makes me so frustrated. You know what I mean? Every one of these is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, but this one's only 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It makes me mad. We just put it on the 0 frame. I don't know why they started on the 1. It's very frustrating, but listen, that's just the way that it is. You take it up with the Blender Foundation and not me, okay? Well, after that, let's go ahead and turn this back to use timecode, turn that off, so we put the frames back, so this goes to frame 50. 50 frames is 60 frames is 1 second. So 60 frames is 1 full second. Obviously that makes sense. 60 1 second, boom. Okay, so after that we have what? We have the output, this is huge. The output is massive. Obviously, this little folder icon, you would click this folder icon and it would take you to somewhere on your computer. It would take you to somewhere you need to, render an image out to, or render a video. It would take you to your videos folder or your documents folder. You just, put wherever you want to render whatever you're rendering in whatever folder you want to render. So you want to render it to your videos folder, then put it there. Easy. I said that's super complicated. Don't know why. I'm sorry. That's just where you put your files. You just render it and you put it where you want it to go. Media type, image, video, whatever obviously if you want to do video, you change it to video, and then you go down here to encoding, and then change this from Matroska to, MPEG-4, MPG, MP4, or, QuickTime, WebM, whatever you're trying to render to. Excuse me. It's kind of cold in my apartment. Let's go back to image, and the important thing about images is if you want this to render with a transparent background, like I said earlier, you would obviously go ahead and choose RGBA, because RGBA stands for red, green, blue, alpha. If you render it how it is right now, it does not render with alpha in the background because there's, the image has no idea what the A is. It stopped at kindergarten, never learned the alphabet, didn't learn what A means. So make sure that's checked, or else you're gonna render it with absolutely no alpha in the background. For videos, the same thing you would do if you want to change this to alpha, is you would go to QuickTime, and then you would change this from H.264 to FFmpeg codec number 1, and then you can choose RGBA, which is very, very useful for videos that you want to be transparent. But the unfortunate thing about that is that it makes the video file an MOV, I believe. Okay, after that, if you have audio in your scene, like if you've added audio, make sure you go here and change the audio codec to like MP3 or FLAC or AAC or something, probably AAC to be honest with you. But most of the time you put audio in after you render it out. But if you do have audio in your scene, which we'll get into in a little bit, then make sure that's on, or else the audio will not render out with it. That's super important. Another tab here, let's kind of breeze through these. They're not going to probably use this tab too much. This is kind of just like the different, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like, it's kind of like layers, essentially. You need to enable a lot of these things for different materials and different things that you start doing with meshes and in the material shader tab and stuff. But for the most part, you'll probably leave this alone. The scene tab is super good because if you have multiple cameras in your scene and you want to use a different character, you want to use a different camera, you can go here and just select a different camera. So let's say, for instance, if I have Sierra, it's Shift D to duplicate that, and then left click to confirm that duplication there. Let's turn off auto keyframing as well. Okay, let's do that. Rotate, double tap, auto rotate that bad boy. Put this back on solid viewport shading so we can see easier. Okay, so if we have two cameras like we do, and let's name this one Tommy. So now we have Sierra and Tommy. Let's say we want our scene to be Sierra. Oh, by the way, if I hit 0 on my numpad, it goes into the camera's view. That's how you do that. So on your numpad, if you have a numpad on your keyboard, by the way, because I know a lot of people don't, hit 0 and then it goes into the camera's view. I do believe the way to do that without a numpad is hitting this little button right here, toggle the camera view, boom. So there you go. That's pretty nice. Same thing here. You can toggle orthographic. The way you do that on a numpad is hitting 5. Hit 5 on your numpad, and it goes to orthographic view. If you don't have a numpad, again, hit this little button. Boom, 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 boom. With this, you can just move the camera around. With this, you zoom in and out. But if you want to do that with the mouse, just scroll on your mouse wheel. And if you want to pan like this, just hold down Shift while you're clicking your mouse button, and you'll move around. If you unhold Shift, it'll rotate. If you hold Shift, you can pan, which is super cool. So a couple of movement tips there for you. But back to the task at hand, the cameras. So if you take a look, we have two cameras here. One of them has this little black triangle up at the top. You see it's how it's filled in. That means that that's the camera that's active. But this camera, this triangle is hollow. That's because this one's not active. So if we hit 0, it'll take us to this camera. But if we want the other camera to be active, if we want Tommy to be active, just change our camera here to Tommy, and then now you can see that black triangle is filled in and this one's hollow. So when we hit 0, it goes into that camera's view. So that's nice. So that's good if you have multiple cameras, you need to cut back and forth in your scene somewhere. So yeah, there you go. I don't think you use anything else too much in this area. Oh, keying sets. You might use some keying sets and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. Next tab is the world tab. The world tab is super useful because if you want to change the color, remember how I said earlier about the bottom of the monkey here, how it's still gray? If you want to change this, obviously the background, if everything's not transparent, let's go back to the film, uncheck transparent. This is the background, so it's gray. So if you change this color from gray, it changes the background of our scene. Now, this is super useful if you don't have any backgrounds for anything and you kind of just want to, you're just making like a logo or something, like an intro or something like that. You want to change the background color. And you don't want it to be transparent. Just make it like a dark blue. Looks pretty cool. You can make it black. You can make it really, really bright white, of course, as well. You can do anything. But the cool thing is that if you have this on transparent, how we did before in the film section, and you want this to be a color in the back, like a highlight color or something like that, you can make it a nice soft blue or a soft green or whatever you want to have in the background. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? A nice soft blue always looks good because it looks like steel. You know, it looks pretty soft, pretty nice. So there you go, like a little light gray there. The rest of this is not too much. You're not really gonna see too much of this. Not really use too much of this. Sorry. Okay. The next one is the collection. The collection tab is not exactly something you're gonna use as well. It's kind of just like collections are basically folders for your items. So let's go ahead and unhide all this. So the way I'm doing that, by the way, is hiding all these like extra things, is hitting this little button up at the top. It hides the overlays. You can also hit this little drop down and change, hide the specific things you want to hide in general. So if I want to hide the X and Y axis to get rid of those little lines there, I can do that. If I want to hide the grid floor, I can do that. If I want to hide text info, I can do that. It gets rid of like when things are like selected, it gets rid of the words, which is nice. It gets rid of the words there. I can get rid of the 3D cursor. The 3D cursor is this little thing right here in the center. This is where all of our items get spawned. So if I want to move that 3D cursor and spawn something somewhere else, I can hit this little button over here on the left-hand side, move the cursor over there. Now it's right there. Now if I hit Shift A and we add in a new sphere, it'll add on that, because every new item you add adds on top of the 3D cursor. So you can go ahead and move that around, or you can go ahead and just get rid of it altogether. Now, if you want to put the 3D cursor back to where it goes, that's somewhere up here. And I'm not going to lie, I always forget where it is. I won't lie to you. I'm pretty sure it's up in the Object tab up here in Set Origin. Yep, Set Origin. Or actually, wait, no, yeah. Snap, it's in Snap. Cursor to World Origin. So there you go. So it puts the cursor back to the world origin. Once again, that's an object up at the top here, then snap, then cursor to world origin. You can also do selected. So if you, I just did that again. Up, snap, nope, snap, cursor. Okay, so make sure you get off of the 3D cursor like tool over here and put this back to the selection box right there. So we can select this now. If you want to go ahead and put this to snap this to that, we can go ahead and go cursor to selected, and that'll snap to the cube. Over here on the left hand side, just quickly, we have the move tool, rotation tool, scale tool, transform. This is just all of them combined. So yeah, there's that. There's also the annotate, which is like you can just draw on your scene, and it's like just for, it's like for a little, oh, this is what I was doing. Like it'll just, you can just be, oh, this is a cube, this is for this is for that. It's kind of like just like, you know, editor marks, you know, and stuff, so you can see what you were doing. Measure is obviously just to measure things, and then add cube is just the ability to add a cube like that, which is really cool. It's like, yeah, I feel like an architect. Whoop, 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 whoop. I am literally an architect. Look at me go. I'm making a house as we speak. Boom. Look at that nice little beautiful house I just made right there. Very cool stuff. Now, the camera's doing the weird thing where I can't zoom in properly. It's kind of like strange. I want to zoom in on the building we just made, but I can't. If I select that one of the pieces and hit period on my numpad, then it'll rotate around that item, whatever I hit period on, and now I can zoom in on it perfectly, and it looks good. So, sorry. Back to collections. This is the perfect time to show you. Back to collections. Now, if we drag a box over top of all of these, right, and then right click, we can do a couple of different things. But the most important thing is that we can go down to this move collection and hit move to collection, and then hit either collection or new collection. We're in a new collection. I'm going to add this to new collection called box in all capitals. Hit create on that. Now you can see that up here we have a item called a box. This box has 3 cubes in it, and we can hide it all together, or we can hide them individually like this, which is super cool. Where do we go with the collection tab? Where was I at? I was somewhere. I was somewhere around this area. Yes. Okay, whatever. I forgot where we were, but that's collections. There you go. After the object tab, which we did already, because we started with that, let's go to the modifier tab. The modifiers tab is exactly what you think it is. You add modifiers to objects, and they do different things. So if I grab our cube here, let's grab this one. If I grab our cube here, and add a modifier to it, we can do a couple of different things. We can do a lot of things, actually. So we can go ahead and go to generate, which is probably the tab you use more often than not, maybe physics as well. Generate, let's go ahead and add in a bevel modifier. So you can see instantly it just bevels all the edges, but it doesn't look that good because it's kind of sharp. So let's go ahead and add some segments. Whoop, very nice. So now we have a much smoother bevel on all of those edges. We can change the amount to make it more or less bevelly, but you can see when we do that a little bit too much, you can see all those like lines and all those gross things and stuff. So to fix that, let's go ahead and go to the object tab up here with our cube selected and hit shade smooth. You can see instantly it shades all that out and smooths it all out. It looks really, really good. Very, very nice stuff. So there you go. Now, with the rest of this, you probably just leave the rest of this alone. The regular bevels are pretty decent, to be honest with you. And of course, if you don't want that anymore, you can just toggle it on and off for the view, or you can toggle it on and off for the render. Let's go ahead and hit delete on that. Now, if you have something that's been shade smooth, but you want the edges to be sharp like this, it looks weird now because it's a cube and the edges are supposed to be sharp, but yet they're not sharp because it's not sharp because we shade smoothed it. Let's go back up to the object tab and just go shade flat. Now, you can also do shade, you can also do auto smooth, which is useful for this. Let me show you. If we have a complex shape, like we want to go ahead and make this a different shape than a regular cube, how you would edit that? You would go ahead and hit tab to go into edit mode, just like that. And now we can edit each individual point of this cube instead of just like moving the cube itself around. You know what I mean? We can edit this all. So now let's go ahead and let's say we want to make one of these like edges soft, but the other one's not. Let's go to this little button right here and hit the edge select tool, because what we were doing before is we were just grabbing the vertices. These are like the individual vertices. We don't want that. We want to grab the edge itself. Let's go ahead and grab that little button and then click this edge. Now we can hit G to move it, and you can see now we move the whole edge all at once, which is very cool. It's like a little line, right? So if we want to go ahead and manually bevel this, we can do it two different ways. We can hit this little button right here, which is the bevel tool, or we can hit Shift, Control B, hit Control B, and then just move our mouse, and you can see it bevels it, which is very cool. But we don't want it to be sharp like that. We want it to be like rounded. So how do we do that? Well, great question, Samantha. Good question. Scroll your mouse wheel, and then boom, you're adding new segments to this bad boy and just beveling it up. Now, you probably don't want to do too many. I'm going to do 20 segments up at the top. You can see with the number up here at the top. I'm going to do 20 segments right there. Boom. Hit left click to confirm that, change. Hit tab to go into edit mode, to go out of edit mode, tab. But you can see we had those little lines again, and I don't like those lines. I don't like those lines. It looks like an accordion. We don't want to make an accordion. We want to make a smooth thing. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and go back to object. And instead of doing shade smooth, because it's going to smooth the whole thing, which looks gross, let's go back to flat, and we'll change this to auto smooth. So now you can see it keeps those nice edges on the sides and the bottom and the top of this bad boy, but it smooths out the arc we just created, which is super, super useful, because obviously this looks way better than this. Don't know what that is. That's pretty gross. So keep that on auto smooth. Boom. Now with the modifier, obviously you can see it added a modifier over here of the smooth by angle. That is what this is. Auto smooth. That's what that is. So when we add this, it creates it. So if we're on nothing, then it has nothing over in the modifiers tab. But if we add smooth, boom, it adds that in the modifiers. Now we can change this. Now if your angle is too sharp and it doesn't smooth it out, you can change the angle from 30. 30 is usually pretty fine though. Obviously nothing's really changing here. You can see. But yeah, usually your angles are going to be fine at 30. But if your angle is too sharp or obtuse or whatever, then you might need to change this angle around. But yeah, so aside from that, we have a couple more other modifiers we can do. We have a few things. We have the subdivision surface modifier, which will subdivide this entire thing and smooth it out. We can just turn up the amount of subdivisions here. Let me actually put this not on that cube. Let's put it on a different cube. Let's grab this cube here, and we'll add a subdivision surface modifier to it. Subdivision surface is, like I said, it just kind of smooths everything out, which is nice. So we can just smooth it, which is super cool. Just bump up the viewport things because it's like not very smooth like this, obviously. Just bump it up. It turns it into like a rounded kind of thing. If we were to go ahead and hit tab to go back into edit mode, we can add in a loop cut by hitting this little button here. A loop cut is basically cutting something in half. So you can see it has a little outline to show you where it's going to go. Let's just click once there, and we'll click once on this side as well, and this side too. So on all the sides, we'll just add a loop cut. So now there's 4 faces on all of these sides here. If we go to the face select tool up at the top, next to the edge tool we used earlier, we can select each face. So now we have 4 faces there, 4 faces there, 4 faces there, 4 there, and 4 there. So we have one loop cut going all the way around in a band, one loop cut going all the way around this way in a band, and then one going this way, like I said. So that's very, very cool. Now, what we can do is you can see that when we use the subdivision surface modifier, it makes this like a rounded cube. You know what I mean? It makes it like a rounded little cube, which is pretty cute. Obviously, we can go ahead and go to shade smooth again. Boom. And that looks really nice. That looks really, really cool. If we go ahead and go back into edit mode, we can grab vertices select mode and then just grab all the vertices by holding down shift. We can just grab each vertice in the center here. Hold down shift when you left click each of these, and then hit S to scale, and we can scale them inwards. You can see that we can like either push them out or puff them in. You know what I mean? Really, really cool. So yeah, there you go. We can make it like little indented, kind of like that. So it's a little Yeah, it's a little like, soft or squishy or whatever, like a Jello cube or something. We can get rid of that and go back to the regular cube. If you ever want to get rid of what you did, just hit the X button and then it'll go out of that, which is very, very, very nice. So there you go. Now, fast forwarding a bit, there's a lot of different things in here. You'll play around with a lot of these bad boys. Like I said, you'll probably use the generate tools and the physics tools the most. So if I put an ocean modifier on something, it'll literally make it an ocean. If I hit play on this, it won't do anything. But if we go ahead and change the time, you can see the time will go up and you have a nice little ocean there for you. That's pretty unique. Like I said, obviously there's a bunch of modifiers there. Won't go through all of them today, but yeah. So there's that. This is the particle tab. The particle tab is very cool. So if I go ahead and add a particle system to our cube, it'll start to drop particles. Now these particles you can't see. I'm gonna change this in frame to 500, by the way. Obviously you can't see these particles when you render anything. They kind of just are for us to see what we're doing because we haven't added an object to them yet. But again, this is a huge system here, and I won't go through all of it today. But just know that there's a lot of things here, and if you do want a specific particle system tutorial, definitely let me know in a comment below. Be like, yo, I need a particle tutorial, and I got you. Just the basic things you need to know is that this is the number of particles that it's going to emit. So let's change it to 5,000, and we'll change our in frame to our in frame in the scene, which is 500. So over the course of 500 frames, this cube will emit 5,000 particles, which is pretty nice. The lifetime just shows how long they're going to live for. So let's make it 10 frames. So each particle only lives for 10 frames, and they die after 10 frames after they're born, which is super quick. Obviously, all of these different things. There's so many things in here, but this is just all how you make particles. This is, by the way, right here, the render tab. This is how you make it an actual object. So if we change this from halos are just these little balls that are not going to be rendered. They're just for us to see what we're doing right now. If we change that to object, we can choose an object here by hitting this little button, and let's choose Sierra, and you can see immediately we have all of these. Oh, let's not choose Sierra because that's the camera. Let's choose Bob. Nope, that's the light. No, which one's the monkey? I forget which one's the monkey. Hank. Let's choose Hank, and obviously you can see immediately we have the little monkey faces. If I pause in here, these are all monkey faces as the particles. Super cool stuff. You can choose a couple different things here. You can choose rotation and then turn on dynamics so that when these guys come out, they're not all facing the same exact direction. You can see they're rotated a little bit. Now we can change angular velocity a little bit, turn that up so they kind of rotate as they come out. And now they're kind of, more askew. And then you can do more by choosing object rotation. And maybe you can do, actually, let's uncheck that because that's for... It wants it to be the rotation of the actual monkey head. It's super in detail, but without making it too confusing. Let's go to physics here, and then we'll just choose like the browning. We'll turn the browning up a little bit. The browning kind of just makes things wave around. Let me turn the... I'll show you. I said I wasn't getting into this, but then I'm getting into it because I love particles. GG's, it's over. Okay, let's turn the scale up a little bit so we can see what we're doing. And then turn scale randomness. Obviously, that'll make all these monkeys not exactly the same size, which is very nice. Let's do that. And then let's go to Brownian and turn the Brownian up like crazy. You can see what it does. It basically just makes it so that these guys, you can't see because there's not. Okay, let's turn the gravity off. You'll see. Let's go all the way down and then go to field weights and turn the gravity off, and you can see what Brownian does. Let's put it on 0. So without any Brownian, it kind of just, all the particles just come out like this, which look crazy. But if I turn Brownian up a little bit, you can see it does like this. It kind of makes everything look a little less uniform and kind of like, yeah, like that. There you go. So you can kind of see what's going on there. It kind of makes everything look a little less uniform because with it on 0, it looked like this. There you go. So yeah, there's a lot of settings here. Particle systems are super cool, very, very cool stuff. But for now, we will not continue that right now because I could do a whole 20 minutes on that alone. We've already been going for a while. So let's go to physics. Physics is exactly what you think it is. It's literally just a physics simulation. Again, I won't be spending too much time on this, but there's different things here. So you have collision, cloth, and fluid, rigid body. These are all things like a rigid body would just be a regular object you want to fall. So like a trash can, if you want to knock the trash can over. Fluid's obviously fluid. Cloth is obviously cloth. So yeah, again, these all do different things. Again, that'll be a whole separate video. Object constraint. These are, again, you're probably not use these too much. This is exactly what you think it is. It basically just adds the same statistics or, options or whatever you want to say to another object. So again, you see copy location, copy the rotation. It's like if I want this monkey to rotate the same way as the cube, then I would put an object constraint on it, and I'd probably make it a child of the monkey, and then it would rotate the same way, transform the same way. It would stay a certain amount of distance from it when you move it. It's very cool stuff, but again, super complex for just today's super beginner tutorial. Now, this tab here, we have vertex groups, shape keys. Now, something we haven't gotten into at all basically is weight painting. Weight painting is super cool. So if I go ahead and add another monkey here, let's go ahead and add a monkey real quick. Add a little monkey action. We can go ahead and hit S to scale this bad boy up, R to rotate it, whatever else. But if we hit tab, you can see we see all the vertices here like we saw earlier, but we're in edit mode. Let's change this from edit mode to weight paint. Now, if we go to the weight paint mode, you can see everything's gray. And if I go ahead and click and drag, it's like a weather map, like of a hurricane or something, right? The weather is going to be nice and sunny in Tampa Bay, Florida today, this weekend, as the storms roll in. Everywhere where it's red is where there's the most weight painting, where it's the strongest. And then everywhere where it's blue is obviously, it gets less and less as it goes out. So basically this is for if weight painting is for if you're rigging a character, like with bones for like a 3D animation, or you're, doing something where you need to move pieces of your character around. That's what weight painting is for. Now, it's super frustrating to get right because a lot of the times it's very finicky. It takes a while to do, making rigs and putting bones on things and stuff to move them around and animate them, of course. But this is what this is. So this is what the vertex groups are. So if I add a group here, let's call this face. Let's add another vertex group, and it creates a new one. Maybe I want this one to only affect the ears. So let's go ahead and just draw the ears. And this is a super sloppy job that is very bad. But just to give you guys an idea, you just color the ears in here. Boom, 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 boom. And then you can go ahead, and now that's the group. It's called ears. And then we can go ahead and see this controls the face, this controls the ears. And if we have bones attached to this, we can assign the bones to the individual parts of the groups. Super easy stuff. You can also select this instead of painting it manually. You can go to edit mode, select all of this. Let's go ahead and hit C. Actually, let's hit this little button right here. This button toggles X-ray so we can see the vertices behind the front of where we, so we can see through the whole thing and select everything. Let's go ahead and hit C to open up the brush and just brush all of these vertices here for the ear. And then we can go ahead and let's go to the ear. Actually, let's go to this ear. Let's do this ear. Because this ear, as you can see, if we go back to weight painting, it has nothing on it. So we just did this ear. So let's get this ear like along with the other one. Let's do this one by selecting all of these vertices by hitting C. Just color all these bad boys in. Get all of them. If you want to erase, just middle mouse click and you can erase. But there you go. Now, once that's done, we can right click to get rid of the circle brush, and then go to the ears thing here, hit assign, and then once we do that, you can see that when we go back to weight painting, all of that ear is completely solid red now, which is fully selected in there, which is really good. So obviously you can go ahead and clean up any of the things you don't need. All these things here are obviously messed up and whatnot, but there you go. So shape keys is also very cool. Shape keys is one of my favorite things, actually. Shape keys is, if I have a cube over here, let me show you. If I have a cube, and let's say I want to animate this cube, but only in edit mode. So right now, as you can see earlier, we animated the cube to move from left to right. We can rotate, we can animate the rotation, but what if I want to make it what if I want to animate like something in edit mode? Like I want to make this vertex go from here to there. I want to make it look weird like that. How would I go ahead and do that? Well, we can do that with shape keys. Super easy. So let's go to shape keys here, hit this little plus button, and then hit it again. So we have the basis. The basis is basically like your body before, let's say someone gets a tattoo, right? Basis is basically you at birth. It's what you look like before you change anything, right? Then key one would be, if you got tattoos, or if, you put on a shirt that day, right? It's whatever you did. So key one is what we're going to be editing here. Leave basis alone. Basis is how you want it to look always. Key one is what we're going to do to it. So let's say I want to push this vertex in. Hit tab on your keyboard. Select this vertex, hit G, and then move it in about right there. Now, that's on key one. Now, if we go ahead and hit tab and change the value, you can see that now we can animate this bad boy. So now you can zoom that in and out, which is super cool. Very cool stuff. So now if we want to go ahead and animate this, I bet you're wondering, oh, how do we animate a value? You bet I got you. Don't worry. Change the value to 0. Put your cursor on 0 right here, and then hover your mouse over top of the value box here. Hit I on your keyboard, and it should turn yellow. Yellow means there's a keyframe on it. And then let's go to frame 60. And now you see it's green. That means that there's a keyframe on this, but you're not on the frame that has the keyframe. Does that make sense? So there's an animation on this slider, but you're not on the actual one. Because if we go back to frame 0, boom, it changes yellow again. So let's go to frame 60 here. Hover our cursor, hit I, boom. Now it is yellow. Now down here you can see these are now connected with the little orange thing, which means that these two keyframes go together. So now when we play this, it won't do anything because we didn't change the value. So let's go ahead and change this by sliding it upwards. Orange means that you've changed a value, but it doesn't have a keyframe yet. So go ahead and hit I. So now it has a keyframe. And when we play this, you can see that now it deforms, which is super cool. Now it deforms and slides itself in. So those are keyframes. That's what you do. That's what you use shape keys for. That's what you use shape keys for. Very cool stuff. The rest of this, you probably won't use too much of in any, like a day-to-day basis kind of thing. So let's go ahead and move on to the final tab, which is arguably the most important tab here on the right-hand side. Now, this is the material tab. Now, if you want to go ahead and make this not just gray when you go to the material tab here or the rendered viewport shading tab, let's go ahead and let's add in a couple lights here around this area so you can see. Now, let's say you want this to not be white. Now, again, we have a couple different modes up here. We have the solid viewport shading, which is going to be solid no matter what. Every color is the same. This is material tab, which is going to show you the materials, but not what it looks like rendered. It'll just show you the materials. Of course, everything is still gray, so it all looks gray. And then we have the rendered viewport shading, which is exactly what the scene will look like when it's rendered. Let's go ahead and change the material here. So this is going to have this little new button here or a drop down. We can hit this little drop down and select the material we already have, which is the gray one. Now we want to change this from gray. We can change it to a color. So let's change it to green, and then boom, now it's green, which is beautiful. Now it's like a little lime green. We can put it on red. We can put it on pink, purple, all that stuff, blue. The cool thing is that this is able to be done for every different object. We can change the material. Now, you can't just go ahead and hit this material and hit this little drop down and add that material, because it'll be the same material. When you change this, it'll change both of them. So let's say you want a different material on the monkey than you do on the cube. So we'll select the cube and we'll hit this little 3 button right here, which means it's going to create a duplicate, another material here. So hit the little button and then it'll call it material 001. We can call this cube material or whatever, cube matte, and then change this base color to a different color. Now you can see you can change it independently from the monkey. And let's say you want this one to be way shinier. Let's go ahead and change the roughness. I'm changing the wrong thing here. Let's go ahead and change the roughness of the cube. Select the cube first and then change the roughness. You can see it's a lot more shiny now. You see the little shine there. You can also put the metallic up so it looks more metallic, which is super cool. But yeah, you have a bunch of different options you can do here. And then down here, diffuse, subsurface. You can add some subsurf to make it look like it's this is the subsurface just for the diffuse. We'll do that in a second. I'll show you this more in depth in a second here, but you probably don't want to mess with these too much through here. You probably want to do it in the actual shader editor in a second, but yeah, so that's how you change the color of things. You can change it from a principal BSDF to anything. You can change it to a subsurf, change the scale up. This is usually used for skin, obviously subsurf scattering. So used for skin. You can make it a skin tone color like this, or like this, or like if you got a alien and little bro's green or something. Use for skin tones like this, and then it looks super nice there. Very, very cool stuff. And it looks like it's, there's light shining through it and whatnot. But a bunch of different materials here. You can see have a lot of different things to change to emission. Emission is just like a solid color. So let's make this like a bright neon blue. Make it super bright. It's just emitting light now. And if we were to go back to the main render tab here, you can see actually they removed the bloom feature. I forgot about that. So you actually can't do that. I was gonna tell you there was a bloom feature here where you could turn bloom on and it would show you like it glowing. It would like glow and be super bright and like a neon sign. But they actually removed that feature. They actually removed that a while ago. So I can't do that. You have to do that in the render whatever's in the render after post processings. Okay, this video is getting to be quite long, so let's go ahead and move to the last part of the tutorial that I want to get into today. So up at the top left here, you have the ability to change your viewport. Now, this is the huge thing here. So you can change this to the 3D viewport, the image editor, the UV editor, node editor, compositor, shader editor, and all these different things here. Let's go ahead and change this to the shader editor. Now, this is the area where a lot of the material editing is going to be done. So let's go ahead and split our window into two so we can see our scene still. Let's put our cursor in the top left hand side. You can also put it in the bottom left, bottom right, anywhere you this little plus comes up on your mouse crosshair. Anywhere that comes up, you can just drag it and just click and drag it and then split your window into two. Now we have two of these, and we can change this back to the 3D viewport by hitting that little button. So now we can see our cube again, which is nice. Go back to the render viewport shading, and you can see it's right there. Now, if we want to go ahead and change this from an emission shader, we can do that by adding a bunch of different nodes. Now, these are the nodes here. So material output is basically the output. This is what it looks like when you look at the cube, and the emission is basically what you want to do to what you want to do to the cube. So if I unplug this from the surface, it'll just get solid black because there's no information that we're putting into the material output, which is just our cube. So think of this material output as cube. That we're not putting any information into the cube, so it's just solid black. So if you want to go ahead and add in another node here, hit Shift A, and we'll add in like we can add in a shader node, and we'll add in like a principal BSDF, right? And plug that back in. Now, this is the basic, just default material we had earlier before we changed anything. We can just change the color like we did before. We can change the roughness like we just did earlier, the alpha to make it like more transparent. Obviously, subsurf. You probably don't want to do subsurf through this. You probably want to add subsurf through the like other material that we were using earlier. As you can see, it adds like a minimal amount here, not too much, nothing crazy. Change the scale up like that, make it a little bit more. But yeah, there you go. So you add a little bit of subsurf into that material there, or you can do it by adding a Shift A, and then we can search for a subsurf scattering. You can just do it like this instead, hook this one up instead of that, and then change the scale up like that, change the color. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but you also have the ability to add them together, so you can mix things together, mix these shaders together. Now, this is actually the wrong node for that. This is mixing values. So the blue ones are usually for values. So like, so you also have the add node, which is this one right here, and this also is not the right one for this. As you can see, anytime you try to plug in a node that doesn't go with the right node, it'll give you this little line here, which is how you know it's wrong, which is actually super useful for beginners, for people that don't know what they're doing. If you don't know how to mix things together, it won't just tell you that it's gonna work, but it doesn't. It shows this little red triangle, this actually white triangle with the red on it, so you know that you can't do that. So again, these are all for different things here. So this one mixes values, this one mixes different colors and different things, but again, these are like shader nodes, and you can't mix shader nodes like that. So you'd actually have to add in a no, that's the wrong thing. I'm looking for mix color. That's what we had before. I'm actually looking for, if I could think, yeah, I'm looking for mix shader. There we go. So we're mixing two shaders together. This is good for mixing a subsurf and like an emission. So you want it to emit, but you also want it to be subsurf. So you plug both of those bad boys into here, and then plug the shader output into the shader output there. So now it's a mixture of both these. If we push it this way, it pushes the factor this way, it's 100% subsurf. If we pull it this way, it's 100% emission. Let's put this down to 1 here. And you can see if we go in between here, you see that little bit of subsurf, and you see a lot of that emission there, which is super nice. Super cool stuff. So we can emit a lot of the subsurf, and we can also have the emission there. Not really sure why you'd want to do this combination of stuff. I mean, I maybe you want to like skin, but it's like there's like some kind of light emitting from the skin, like maybe there's like something underneath the skin or something. But yeah, so there you go. 100% subsurf, 100% emission, and 0.5 is a mix of both of those bad boys. If you see that little bit of subsurf in there, you can do this with any amount of nodes. You can mix anything you want together, and then put it together. The volume is basically just for like gases and, simulations, stuff like that. Displacement is for if you want it to actually look weird and bumpy and stuff like that. Of course, all these things are more in-depth things that we'll get into in other videos. Now, other things you have here is a UV image editor. So this is for if you were to unwrap something. So if we grab our cube and then hit, if you go back to the shape tools and go back shape keys and then go to the basis here. If we double tap A, we can select everything, and you can see these are all the faces of our cube here. So these are all the faces of our cube showing here on the left hand side, sorry. You see all these, and if we double tap A, select everything, hit U to unwrap, we can smart UV project. These are all the different ways you can UV image, like unwrap your image. So basically, if you want to add a texture to your cube, like an image that you have on your computer somewhere, if you want to add like a picture of like Dwayne Johnson to a cube or something like that, you can just go ahead and select everything, hit U, smart UV project, hit unwrap, and now you have all of these cubes right here where you can add an image to them. And how you do that super quickly is just going ahead and going to materials, material output here, and then let's make a new material. Actually, let's go ahead and hit new here, and then hit this little base color, this little yellow icon. Go to image texture, hit open, and then you open your image, and then you can go ahead and line it up with all these little cubes here and just, you know, put whatever image you want on each of these sides. Hit S to scale up and down. I actually have a bunch of tutorials about how to do this specifically, so definitely search my channel for it. It's like just how to add an image to a cube or something like that. But yeah, so there's that. Super simple. And then something else I want to touch on super quickly is the graph editor. The graph editor is basically just all of your keyframes just like lined up and stuff. So earlier when we made this cube move, where is it? Over here somewhere, I think. Hold on, let me just take a look-see. I think we still have that cube that's moving somewhere. Oh, we don't, but we can make a new one. It's fine. Actually, we just do this. We just this. This is our keyframe for the shape key that we made earlier for this cube, like folding in on itself. If you want to like change this and make it like weird and wonky like that, you can. Obviously, it looks super strange like that. You can do like that and then make it like instantly snap in. This is just basically just like, you know, every program kind of has like, you know, keyframes and bezier curves and stuff. You can make it like zoom in. Yeah, so it's like you can change the type of curve that it is. If you hit if you select both of these and right click, you can change the interpolation mode yourself, like manually. Automatically instead of manually. You can change it to linear, so it's like it just goes from point A to point B. Doesn't slow down at all. You can change it. Looks super robotic. You can change it to bounce, so it bounces like this. Looks super cool. That's very weird. You can do back, so it does this weird like thing like that. You can change it to elastic, so like jiggles around like that. Very cool. So yeah, it changes just the way your animations look. You can, you know, smooth them in and out so it doesn't look as robotic when they move. A really good example of this is if I was to add in another cube real quick. Let me just show you, and then we'll do like that, up like that. We'll move it from this place. Actually, I'll turn on auto. Move from there to there. As you can see, instantly it creates 3 keyframes here. It creates the blue one for the Z location, the green one for the Y, and the red one. Actually, didn't make a red one because I didn't move it that way. Yeah, I didn't move it on the X. Well, let's move it on the X real quick. Yeah, like that, and then like that, and then. Okay, there we go. Whatever. It's fine. Who cares? We have enough. We just select both of these, and then if we want it to be like robotic, as you can see, it slows down and like, you know, speeds up and slows down at the start and end of the keyframes, which are these little curves. If we want it to be robotic, we just select all of that, right click, linear, and then boom. Now it's completely straight and does not slow down or start start slower or end slower. And if we want to put it back, just put it back on bezier, and then you can see it looks a lot smoother. There you go. So there's that. There is that. You can also make it look a lot smoother by holding down Control and making it like that, and then it has that nice little smooth like that. Boom. So there's that. That's the Bezier Curves Graph Editor. The other thing you're probably going to use a lot is the Compositor. Not the Compositor, sorry. The Compositor. I'm silly. The Compositor. We can hit we can hit new up here and change this to move these around a little bit. So this is basically the render that your scene's going to see. So let's go ahead and actually hit backdrop here. Now this is the image we rendered earlier. I'm going to just drag that away. Just get rid of that thing that we had, the viewport. You can see this is the image we rendered earlier, which it wasn't very good, but it is what it is, you know what I mean? Now we have a couple things we can do. We can look at these 3 nodes. This is the render layers. This is all the things in our scene. This is the output, what like we want to render, and then this is the viewer. This is just so we can see the thing in the background after we hit backdrop like that, right? Now you have to render your scene one time for this to actually show in the background, or once it won't show. This is just a little thing just to make it easier to connect these two. It's just like a little group thing here. Just select that and hit G to move it. Now, in the render layers, we can actually add a couple of things. We can add in some filters. We can add in some whatevers. This down here is actually new. These are like vignette, sepia. These are all like new things that they've added, which is really kind of cool. Chromatic aberration and whatever. We can just click and drag that up here, and it'll give us a chromatic aberration node. We can just plug that in and then plug that into the thing there. And as you can see in the scene, it has chromatic aberration. Now we can change the factor, change it all the way up for some crazy chromatic aberration. We can change it down for nothing. And of course, you can just add in these things like manually. You can add in like a glare node, which is bloom, and just plug that in right there. Turn the glare up, the size up, turn the strength down. You know, nothing's really too bright in the scene, so you can't really see too much. Let's go ahead and actually render our scene again. And maybe it'll have that cube that we have emitting light in it, so you can see how bright it actually is. Actually, it's okay. It's rendering. It's taking a quick little second here. Taking a quick little second. Just a little second to render. Don't know why. Oh, there it goes. All right. Yep, beautiful. What a glorious scene. Oh, wow. Look at that. Amazing. Okay, so when we take a look at that, we can close that render tab there, and it should update. There we go. It should update. Now, if you want to zoom out, because it's obviously way bigger, just hit V on your keyboard to zoom out. You can also hit Alt-V to zoom back in. There you go. Very beautiful. Now, again, nothing's bright enough in our scene for the glare to actually work, so we'll just get rid of that because we can't, really see too much because there's nothing that bright in our scene. Nothing's really emitting light. And again, there's a bunch of different things here. There's creative pixelate. You can pixelate things, make it look pixely, whatever, very cool stuff. You can play around with all these. They're basically like post-processing filters and whatnot. There's a lot of different things in here. But yeah, there's a vignette tool, which is really nice. Because back in the day we had to just manually get rid of that and just plug this bad boy in. Boom. And then you can see this nice little vignette there. Turn the feather up a little bit, There you go. But yeah, so that's that. That's a very nice tool as well. There's nothing else that you'll probably use too much in here. But yeah, so that's basically it for the most like beginner-ish kind of stuff that Blender has. Up at the top here, these are all just different, types of layouts you can choose. They don't really have anything new. It's just, this is like the different things you can do. We didn't get into modeling at all, like mesh painting and all that stuff. We didn't get into that at all, but there's a lot of sculpting stuff you can do here. Just in the sculpting tab. All these things are normal. You can do this in the regular layout and just change your canvas to this up here in the top. You can just, go to sculpt mode here and then just start sculpting and whatnot. But yeah, so that is it for the basics. That is it for the basics of Blender. Again, if you are brand new, please make sure you're saving your file very, very frequently here in File, because Blender does crash quite a bit, and it'd be a shame for you to lose all of your work. Now, if there's something that you need to know that I didn't touch on, definitely let me know down in the comments, and I will either, if it's something super tiny, then I'll probably answer in a comment, or I'll make a full video on it. So yeah, just let me know what you guys need to see, and I will definitely make a little video for that. So welcome to Blender. I hope you don't quit, because a lot of people quit, and then you'll never be able to make the stuff that you want to make. So I hope you're enjoying yourself. Hope you're having a great time, a great week, a great year, a great month, a great everything, a great life. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys later. But until then, bye-bye.